Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Star Fox 64. In the last part we started off Path 2 with the warp from Medio and got through both Katina and Solar, showing off everything we could along the way, barring getting the medals. And now we're moving on to, honestly, probably the level I'm the most torn on how I feel about it in the game. Welcome to Macbeth.
So you're going to attack the enemy base? Great idea, Fox.
It'll be a piece of cake, General.
Good luck.
Alright, I think you can tell this stage's gimmick is right off the bat. We are back in the Landmaster.
I spot the train. I'm taking it out.
Here come the little hyenas now.
So, it's not only a Landmaster level, it's technically an escort mission, in that we are escorting this train to its inevitable demise. The train is present throughout the entire level, either attacking you outright for half the level, or having enemies around you attack it. Or having enemies around it attack you, rather. You can attack more or less every single car on the train, though, and that not only prevents it from attacking you in some regards, I think it might also give you some score points to get the medal, but you're more or less going to be trying to attack all the other enemies alongside to do that. And I want to say if you want to get the medal, you want to go for the mission complete ending, maybe? I genuinely can't remember, because it's been that long since I went for medals in basically the entire game. With that said, this stage can be easier or harder than Titania in a couple ways. I think there's more enemies here than Titania, and they place HADs in a lot more of an annoying way to dodge. But you don't have to deal with Sector X to do it. And me not having to deal with Sector X just makes this route easier in my eyes no matter what. Titania itself has some problems, but that's mostly if you also just don't stick to the bridges. In this level, everything's out to kill you. Additionally, Titania does have one bonus. You don't have to do anything special to get the mission accomplished. You just get it by playing the stage. There's no mission complete for that stage. For this, in order to get the mission accomplished, we're going to have to do something very specific, and doing it without Falco in combat, like I currently have, is a little bit of a nightmare. Thankfully, at certain points, the train itself also abandons some cars to try and make it easier for you to catch up with it, because they don't want you to get, I guess, sideswiped by some of the cars in tight spaces like this. This is one of the few times you actively have to hover, I feel, with the Landmaster, and one of the only two stages it has. Now, if you're going for the medal here in Macbeth, I want to say your score has to be the usual 150, maybe? But they placed the checkpoint here in a very deliberate location, because now we're going to have a lot more to deal with. We're going to have platforms and doors that you have to shoot to open, which is something a certain other stage will repeat in the game. But it's here where the difference between the mission complete and mission accomplished is presented to us. I would explain it in full, but honestly, Peppy handles it pretty well.
Hey, quick ahead! Shoot the 8 switches over the lock!
There are going to be 8 switches located on both sides of the track that we need to shoot to make them turn green so that we can unlock that lock. You might notice, though, some are on the opposite side of the track, and they kind of hide some of them from you unless you actively have to search for them.
You're very lucky.
I'll lure these guys to the front.
The annoyance for that comes in when, I believe it's switches 7 and 8 are on opposite sides of the track from each other within inches of each other, basically. And if you don't have Falco, you're going to have to do some real precise dodge rolling to get over there in time. With that said, the boss for Macbeth is Mech-Beth, as in like Robot Beth. It's a giant flying moth, and it's a little bit annoying in that it has multiple phases. As you continue to shoot it, it loses more and more armor. The main attacks it has a giant death laser that it tries to hit you with. It can shoot missiles into the air, which will land and basically act as javelins you can run into that explode, or as hazards, period. What's really hard about this fight is the same thing that was kind of hard about the fight in Titania. Because of how the Landmaster itself sits, it's harder to get your shots up on things higher up in the air because you need to do the thing we did back for the robot in Sector X, where you need to just constantly flip the analog stick up and up and up to hope you hit it. Admittedly, this is something that I think the 3DS version did a little better, because you can use the circle pad for that, but yeah. During the last phase, you need to shoot the main train compartment whenever it opens up to make it openable for damage, because it has some shields up. With that said, you can weld through its HP quickish enough, I suppose. Just keep on mashing. Admittedly, this is probably the stage that hurts my hands the most. I don't know why. Mashing for the Landmaster hurts my hands more. This is the last attack it has during this phase. It just has this, I guess, reflector laser that's kind of hard to dodge, but, oh well. It dies eventually if it'll open up.
No! Get away! Whoa!
Grade A delivery.
All aircraft report.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
Peppy's ship is in for repairs. Maintenance complete on Falco's ship.
When going for the mission complete, I find Macbeth to be a pretty straightforward level, but the problem is I just don't find Landmasters interesting, and they really throw a lot at you. Plus, this is probably the level, as I mentioned before, that hurts my hands the most with how much you have to mash both the analog stick and the A button in order to hit what you're gonna hit. With that said, for getting the mission complete ending for this, we are sent back to Path 1, in particular over to the Bolst Research Facility. Or Station Outpost, whatever the hell it's called. This is the last main level for Path 2, so we're not... once we finish this level, we're actually moving right back to Corneria for Path 3. So let's now go over the switches we need to hit in order to go into the mission accomplished state. 1, 2, and 4 are all very close to the start, right on the right side of the tracks. 3 is to the left of 4 at the exact same horizontal distance. The best way I can recommend hitting some of these is, outside of just shooting at them, mash the Z and R button twice to do the dodge roll while holding that direction to get some good distance. Number 5 is on the same side as 3 after 3 and 4, so just stick on the side of 3. 6, you have to shoot these doors in order to open them up. 7 is on the opposite side of the tracks ahead of 6. And 8 is right about where 7 is on the opposite side of the track, but some good distance. Again, Falco is meant to shoot one of these two for you. But if you don't have them, you have to do some pretty precise stuff. At that point, all those green lights on this thing ahead of me are open, so you can shoot it to open a switch, and shoot that switch to win.
Good going, Buck!
No! Give them way!
Okay, stop it! All aircraft report.
I can see the look on their stupid faces.
I'm sure we heard him this time.
Maintenance complete on Falco's ship.
You'd say we couldn't have done it without you, Falco, but we did that pretty well. When you go for the mission accomplished, I honestly kind of like Macbeth because it's the only one that really ends that differently. You don't even really fight the boss fight. I like non-standard stuff like that. And for doing the mission accomplished ending over here on Macbeth, we are taken on to technically Path 3. Path 2 doesn't actually have a version of Venom to itself. There's only 2 endings for the game, the Path 1 ending and the Path 3 ending, so to speak. And for that, we're just going to save that for once we're done with Path 3. Welcome to Area 6. But with that, it's time for us to head way back all the way to Corneria. Because now it's time for us to cover how to do the mission accomplished here on the starting planet of the game. First off, I should note, the medal score you need for this level is 150. Now, for the mission accomplished, you need to head a pretty decent distance into the level. And in particular, make sure you save Falco at any opportunity. Namely, when he talks about his G diffusers being down. Because you need him in order to actively do the mission accomplished state here. You don't need to fly through all these little hoops. I do anyway. The big important thing comes after you save Falco. Because we're going to get to that little secondary water section where we have all these rock arcs. You want to fly under every single one of these. It can be a little bit tight without getting hit, but thankfully I think you can get hit and you're still fine.
Pretty smooth flying, Spock.
Why, thank you. It's weird to hear you compliment me, admittedly.
Follow me, Spock. Falco, where you going? I found the target. Try to keep up.
By going all under those rock arcs and having Falco not get chased off by some enemies, you follow him through the waterfall to chase that ship we saw all the way back in part 1 for the mission accomplished route. And admittedly, this is one of my favorite boss fights in the game for such a stupid reason. I find it nostalgic. For the simple reason of, I didn't grow up with 64, I grew up with the original Star Fox.
Ah, someone wants to play. Incoming enemy from the rear. Drop altitude.
Because the boss for Corneria on the accomplished route is the attack carrier from the original Star Fox. It looks the same, albeit clearly updated. And the fight more or less plays out the same. It's going to have 3 little bits that open up to shoot at enemies. You shoot in there to damage it. However, unlike the first game's version of it, I think, I haven't played that since the LP, which admittedly wasn't the longest time ago, but still. It will fly off on its own to try and shoot you down, but at that point, just mashing the fire button at it takes it out pretty quickly. This is an easier fight than Gringa, I feel, over on the complete route, just because I feel they kind of rush you into all-range mode in this game unless you do the training missions. So having this just be a straightforward Star Fox boss, in the most literal terms, technically, I find interesting. It does have one giant laser attack during this last phase that can be a little bit hard to dodge, but it doesn't do enough damage to really worry about, so just keep on mashing.
Who are you guys?
We're Star Fox.
You'll never defeat Android!
We're heading out. All aircraft report.
You did it! I was worried for a moment.
You're becoming more like your father.
I'm fine. You okay over there, Fox?
Aw, he actually worries about us. That's nice. Although I think he did that back in part 1. I'm just unnecessarily hard on Falco because, barring Star Fox 1, I really didn't have him as a child in my childhood. I've always found him kind of dickish. Because I forget if I've talked about my experience with Star Fox, at least in this LP. But I played the first one on Super Nintendo growing up through my brother's copy. But we didn't have this. I skipped right to Adventure, so I missed out on a lot of the characterization, and he's not even in Adventure, so whoops. That said, I kind of like him in Assault.
Fox, we're under attack. Help us out here.
I'm on my way.
Good luck.
Yeah, those totally weren't Zaku's, right? Welcome to Sector Y. This might be my favorite level in the game because it's straightforward Star Fox with no real bullshit in the way. Even in the regards of how you get the mission accomplished versus complete state. Compared to other levels where there's some sub-objective to do, like defeating Star Wolf or destroying something before a timer, the only difference between how you get the accomplished versus the complete here is your point tally up there in the top left. If you want to continue along path 3, you need to get over, I believe, 100 points? I think, because I think the medal's 150 here. And if you want to go on along path 3, just get over 100. I like that a lot. I kind of wish there were more levels like that because it makes me feel like I'm actually rewarded for doing well and not just following an objective. There's not much in the way of bullshit here, and I appreciate that. Plus, I'm always a fan of giant armada brawls and anything space-related. That's part of why I watch Gundam. It's one thing I think Star Wars kind of was missing for a while. Like, yeah, you got the classic trench one, and that shit's exhilarating. But we didn't really have this kind of armada battle outright until probably the prequel trilogy for as many missteps that had. I'm especially thinking of Revenge of the Sith. Like, we had dogfights in space, but seldom stuff exactly like this. Pity the sequel trilogy was kind of meh, though. I think it had some good ideas. I appreciate The Last Jedi for being the only one of the three that has its own sense of identity. And with that, I'll stop talking about Star Wars because it's a mess in any regard. Now, I for years didn't know this, but there actually is a split route in this level. It's right back where we went up a moment ago. Depending on which side of the screen you're hugging, you'll go up or down. So make sure if you want to go up or down, hug up or down. The one thing I can say about Path 3, though, I feel it's definitely the most aggressive towards your allies because of how many times they get chased. In that regard, they might take less damage if you're quick to rescue them. Especially compared to, say, Solar, where they can take a lot of damage really quickly, especially Falco or Peppy, because they just fly too low. But otherwise, I think they're a lot more aggressive towards your partners in this route. In fact, I think they're more aggressive towards your partners than you. If anything is more dangerous to you in Path 3, it's the actual level design, not so much the enemies themselves. I even think the boss fights are generally not harder here, but definitely simple for me to digest, I guess is the way I want to phrase it. I like the boss fights along this route in general. Same with the music, as well. I like Sector X and most of the other music in the game. My favorites are generally along this route, I'd say. With that said, it's time for the boss fight.
Something's up ahead. Looks different.
All range mode.
Alright, so the boss here is technically two-pronged. We got these things, which are called Shogun robots. I think these are the Shogun warriors, and they are a silver and gold robot that try their best to fly around. They actively are a bit harder to track. I recommend, unlike the Star Wolf fight, mashing the button to fire at them rather than charging your shots, because that drains through their HP a lot more quickly than just holding it down and charging. Getting the second one's a little bit tough, and I honestly feel like the AI doesn't do too good at shooting at them here. This is more or less a boss fight for you, not for them. And thankfully, I get enough points here, I believe, to get the mission accomplished ending without being, too out of the range.
Don't party just yet. It's time to try our new weapon.
The Shogun Warlord is the real boss here, and it's the exact same enemy, just with more HP, and I think can turn invisible a little bit, so I don't even think you can shoot this thing by charge shots. Just mash and it dies, very quickly. That is my favorite yell in the game.
We're heading for Auckland. Report in.
There you go.
Your skills have improved, Fox. I guess you're good for something.
2 in a row, Falco. I'm impressed. That's Sector Y. I love this level. Just quick, to the point, shoot everything. It's fun. I like that. And that moves us along Path 3 to a level that is, I feel like the way I should phrase it is divisive, because I like this level, but a lot of people don't. That leads us along Path 3 to Aquis, which we're not going to be taking a look at until next part, because now it's time for us to go back into Sector Y and take a look at its complete state. As I mentioned, though, it's a pretty simple one to get. You just need to make sure you basically don't shoot anything, since you need to have below 100 points. So I should take this opportunity to show off the bottom route that we have here. I know I didn't do this for Venom, but I did do it for Sector X. It's entirely because Venom has way too many branches. I want to say if you want to go for the metal, you want to go maybe along the bottom, but don't quote me on that because, again, I've gotten them all maybe once. Not exactly my point of expertise. I like this game, but not enough to go for 100% in it in a true regard. You know what I mean? I'd rather do that for games that either better reward me for it or otherwise. I will say, though, with as many enemies as this level has, it's genuinely harder, I feel, to get the mission complete here than the mission accomplished. And I kind of wonder if that's intentional, because maybe in their minds, by the time you get to this level, you've already done at least one path of the game, because you only then figured out you could do more than one route, maybe outside of maybe getting hints at that in the manual.
Best you can do.
So, maybe. Either way. That's the end of that split pathway, so let's just jump to the boss fight and hear that fantastic yell once again from this voice actor, who I don't know the name of. Well, this game only has, like, 8 voice actors, not even. I know Peppy's voice actor is the Heavy, I believe, from TF2. No, wait, no, not the Heavy, the Soldier. Which, that's a little weird, but I hear it, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it in my eyes.
All aircraft report.
I'm having some trouble here.
Everything's A-okay. You worry about your own hide.
I know this is non-canon, technically, but at the same time, screw you, Falco, I did well all the same. I tried my best, man. But that's sector-wise mission complete. I actually don't like it as much as the mission accomplished because I don't get to go absolutely hog wild if I want to see that dialogue, I guess. And that takes us over to Solar back on Path 2 from last part. No, that takes us to Katina. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. There is no way to get to Solar from Path 3, now that I think about it. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 6, we continue on through Path 3, going into one of my favorite levels and one of my least favorite levels. See you guys then.